Although there are many revered, cherished, and protected animals in the animal kingdom, there are just as many unwanted animals that humans would like to eradicate. The latter, in actuality, are just misinterpreted and don't go with human lifestyles. Welcome to the channel, subscribe and let's dive in. From ancient mythological representations of animals as exaggerated monsters to our modern society's urban legends and misconceptions, certain animals have earned a terrible reputation and millions of people fearing them, often without much to support that. For as long as humanity has existed, the fear of certain animals has been pervasive and entrenched in our various cultures. Camel spiders. Although they have a frightening appearance and are not particularly slow or small, the largest camel spiders reach lengths of 12 to 15 centimeters, or 5 to 6 inches, and are certainly not a meter. These grotesque-looking relatives of spiders prefer to flee rather than bite, and while their bites may be uncomfortable but are not fatal. Beginning off with a terrifying-looking creature, possibly a terrible alien from a science fiction film, solifuges or camel spiders, neither camels nor spiders, will make a strong first impression. Urban tales abound about them, with reports that they may grow up to a meter long, are lethally venomous, and are extremely swift. There have been a ton of reports and a few viral photographs floating around that undoubtedly provided a clear and consistent picture of the massacre of both humans and animals. Yet it was just an illusion, that picture. Snakes. Although the anxiety in this instance isn't wholly unwarranted, it's undeniable that people have a terrible misconception of snakes. Some species of them are unquestionably something to fear, nevertheless, as is often the case, exaggeration happens. They are frequently the most hazardous poisonous animals, or maybe the most dangerous animals overall in any specific location. Even if it's true that no one should approach a wild snake if they can't tell that it's a harmless species, they shouldn't approach any snake at all. The majority of snake species aren't hostile and truly don't want anything to do with people, much less risk wasting their valuable venom or actually killing someone. Less than a tenth of snake species are thought to be genuinely dangerous to people, which makes humans a really inefficient source of food for them even if they undoubtedly require caution when approached. Although most snakes prefer to warn rather than envenom, they frequently bite even when they are attacking. Deaths from snake bites should significantly decline in the future due to the growth in easily accessible antivenoms. Scorpions. Since scorpions have an alien-like body, enormous pedipalps that resemble pincers, and a tail that may sting with venom, many people in warmer parts of the world are terrified of even seeing one. Yet, most scorpions aren't hazardous, despite the fact that some of them may be. Out of the 1,500 species of scorpions that have been identified globally, about 20 to 25 species of these arachnids are thought to be medically significant and thus harmful. These animals also normally avoid contact with humans. Although many of them do have unpleasant stingers, unless you're incredibly unlucky or live in an area where there are particularly deadly species nearby, it shouldn't really hurt worse than a bee sting. Avoid being stung at all costs, but you shouldn't need to worry about being killed by a scorpion unless you come across one that is a deathstalker. Peranias. How could it not be horrifying to encounter fish that swarm enormous animals or even humans and rip them apart in a matter of seconds? The solution is, once more, rather straightforward. Mainstream culture frequently ignores what animals are like in favor of depicting them in the most glamorous ways. They are undoubtedly fearsome predators with powerful bites and keen fangs, but they represent little to no harm to people. In fact, they frequently act completely disinterested in us. Even when some researchers entered piranha-infested waters wearing only swimsuits, the fish entirely disregarded them in contrast to the bloodied piece of meat they later lowered in, which they joyfully consumed. The truth is that piranhas are actually relatively low on the food chain and tend to move in groups for defense rather than offense. While some piranha assaults do happen, many people swim past them without any issues. Cockroaches. This one is somewhat challenging. These creatures give many new apartment dwellers vivid nightmares and occasionally come as an incredibly disgusting surprise in particular restaurants. Some cockroaches, the ones we associate with pests, are undoubtedly deserving of the outraged fear and hatred they inspire. However, what many people are unaware of is that these creatures hardly serve as an accurate representation of cockroaches. Only a handful of the approximately 5,000 species of cockroaches, which are highly diverse and frequently interesting, are connected to our houses, despite the fact that the majority of people immediately cringe at the idea of cockroaches. In addition to this fact, one might also realize that cockroaches' ability to survive is typically highly overestimated. Contrary to another cockroach myth that is rather common, despite being undoubtedly tenacious, they would not be able to survive a nuclear explosion, and the most don't even live for decades. Tarantulas. The largest spiders in the world, hairy and huge. When it comes to bulk, body length, and leg span, the Goliath bird-eater tarantula is the biggest in the world. Unsurprisingly, the media has focused heavily on these spiders as actual monsters. However, many people are unaware that, in general, they are not as frightening as they may appear to be. Whereas Old World species found elsewhere in the world besides the Americas. Several New World species can be quite swift and aggressive, and their venom isn't thought to have any significant medical effects. America's inhabitants are incredibly docile, well-liked as pets, and regarded as gentle giants. There haven't been any reported tarantula bite-related fatalities in humans, and in truth, they just want to be left alone. It's natural that they won't overnight become everyone's favorite creature, and getting bitten by those fangs is definitely something to avoid. Sharks. Many people dread sharks, another movie star, but in reality, you'd have more reasons to fear dogs than these interesting, big fish. Even now, the cultural impact of movies like Jaws is still felt strongly. Real shark attacks are uncommon. Only a dozen or two of the hundreds of shark species in the world have been linked to attacks on humans. Even still, scientists speculate that it happens frequently because sharks confuse people for their regular meal, a category in which we utterly do not belong. Shark attacks are incredibly uncommon, and the ones that do occur rarely result in deaths. In contrast to the millions of sharks we kill each year, there were only 5 human fatalities from shark attacks in the entire year of 2018. The likelihood of you dying at the hands of a shark is 1 in a million, and it's a fallacy that sharks can smell blood in the water from kilometers away. Bats. Bats have undoubtedly always divided people. While some think they're creepy and even repulsive, others think they're cool or even adorable. They surely have a reputation that dates back decades, and they frequently appear in horror-related media. As well as most recently becoming infamous for being the primary contributor to the devastating COVID-19 pandemic. As of the time this list was written, we were still experiencing. It's a fact that bats can transmit rabies and other infections and diseases. There are also vampire bats, albeit these make up a very small proportion of all bats in actuality. Vampire bats aren't often attracted to humans, and the majority of species aren't regarded to be significant disease carriers. In another sense, these fluffy, flying mammals are also not blind, despite what the general public thinks. There are many incredible creatures in the world, some of which are frequently misinterpreted. For many years, these misunderstood animals have been covered in myths and misunderstandings, which has contributed to a poor perception of them in society. The fact that each animal plays a distinct role in the environment and that they all merit respect and preservation is nevertheless crucial to comprehend. These creatures, from bats and spiders to sharks and snakes, have earned the reputations of being deadly and unsettling even though they are vital components of their surroundings. Snakes manage rodent populations, whereas sharks help maintain the environment of the ocean. Bats pollinate plants and regulate insect populations, while spiders help manage pests in our homes and gardens. It's time to dispel the myths and misconceptions about these animals and to recognize the important roles they play in society. In order to safeguard these misunderstood creatures for future generations, education and awareness may do a lot to alter our impressions of them and live peacefully. Thank you for watching. Follow for more.